What's going on, guys? We're going to be diving in on Will Richard today. Will Richard, 56th overall pick of the Golden State Warriors. He has been in the rotation for the team. And we're going to be looking at how 2K Sports has handled his ratings so far this year. We're just going to go back into the default roster from when the game launched. Heading over to Richard. He started off at a 68 overall. And I have a few problems with this. They try to keep like guys that they anticipate to be on two-way contracts in like the low 60s. Richard was not really that type of player. You can see he's 22 years old. He had a 4-year career at Florida, which did win the national championship. So he was a little more polished than your average rookie, more NBA ready than the vast majority of him. Of course, players nowadays are drafted more on potential than what they are now. Typically, guys like Richard will end up going undrafted for that reason, or just drafted a lot lower in general compared to some of their younger brethren. But some of the ratings that they started him off with: 50 shot IQ. This is like a 2K staple. They will pretty much have all of their rookies at a low shot IQ because this rating has a huge impact on the overall rating. And then if the player plays well, they can boost this up later on. Richard, for what it's worth, had great shot selection in college. He had a 62 true shooting percentage in his last year at Florida and was 60% true shooting for his career. Really, that's like the only noteworthy thing about his performance. Everything else, he was kind of like average across the board at. And that's actually playing into what he's doing at the NBA level. But some of these other ratings, like 66 ball handle for a shooting guard, this is really low. 51 pass accuracy is also like, this is like what you would give to like power forward centers. It's not, he wasn't a great like playmaker in college. This is just like too low of a rating to even have as a base. Like just cleaning up some of those minor things, he would have started off at like a 70-ish overall. In my when I did my scout on him and like the breakdown of the college stats and everything, I had him at a 72, which is kind of standard for me. I typically have my rookie ratings will start out lower. I mean higher rather than 2K because I actually go in, break down the scouting, and rather than just keep players arbitrarily low. His defensive ratings are also pretty low. He is regarded as a solid defensive player, so that's something to keep an eye on as we go through all these ratings. Only 80 stamina. He's a young player. He's played 32 minutes, 31 minutes per game in his last college season. That's another one that kind of sticks out as kind of low. 70 speed with ball. I don't know about that one either. And then obviously his mental attributes. These are also attributes that they arbitrarily keep low. Again, he's regarded as a pretty good defensive player, but not too far off from the likes of, say, a Trae Young, for example, who is a comparatively weak defensive player, one of the worst in the NBA at any given time. And then his consistency ratings, I also think these are a little low, just based on what he did in college. 50 intangibles, again, this is like the baseline that they kind of stole from me. Anybody that they expect to be on a two-way contract, which, because he was drafted in the low 50s, he didn't end up on a two-way contract. Alex Tuhey, he was actually drafted with the 52nd pick. He ended up on the two-way, and Richard was more NBA ready, so they gave him a standard contract. But still, 50 is typically what they'll give to a G League tier player. So let's now go in and check out what 2K did. Also noted that he had 0 badges. I didn't go over that, but that's going to be a big sticking point of what we're touching on. Let's just load the official. Head back on over to Golden State. Okay. Which button am I hitting? Sorry, the right stick this year. Okay. Will Richard, 75 overall. He has 5 badges now, so we're going to dive into some of the ratings that changed on him and what those badges are. So they boosted his layup rating by 4 or 5 points. Some of his shot ratings went up a little bit. They raised his ball handle by a single point. Ugh, pass IQ and the pass accuracy, they did boost those up to more respectable levels. And then his shot IQ, they boosted up to 20. That's pretty standard. Pass vision went up, I believe, 14 points. He has an assist rate of like 14%. Just going over some of his shooting data. Let me see which tab I have it open under. Did I lose it? I might have lost it somewhere. There we go. Okay. So Richard is 20 for 25 on 2-point field goals. This is really, that's 80%. That's crazy. Obviously, small sample season. He's at 155 minutes played this year, but he is 11 of 12 at the rim, which is 92%, and then 8 of 12 on shots I deem as close, 67%. He's 1 for 1 on mid-range shots. 2K kind of, well, actually, I should note that all of his shots would actually fall into close range. None of those close shots were actually from like some of that overlap that they consider sometimes a mid-range shot. So he's done a lot of work in the paint, and then on threes, he's 11 of 27, 41%. Now, something that really should be noted with all of those crazy percentages, he's been assisted on 74% of his field goals overall. And I watched the tape of his 30-point game against the Sacramento Kings. It's one of the least impressive 30-point games I've ever seen. He was basically wide open on all of these shots. It was just set up by other players. Tyrese Martin is another comparable I had for his performance, where Martin, if you recall last year with the Nets, scored like 12 points total in his first 5 games. And then in his next game, he scored like 26 or 28 points or something. It was more points in that one game than he had scored in like the entire season combined. And it wasn't like he was going crazy off the dribble from 3 or anything. They were just passing him the ball, and he was left wide open. He drills an open shot like it's practice. On a lot of these drives, he's assisted on a high number of his twos, because he's just, other players like Jonathan Kuminga or Jimmy Butler, those are the ones who are driving. The defense is collapsing on them, and then they're just dumping it off to Will Richard, who's in the right spot. Of course, give him credit for that, but he's not creating these shots. He's more or less just getting like dump off passes from other players, similar to another player who's probably going to take the role of moving forward, Gary Payton II. That's basically what Gary Payton's overall career has been, especially since he joined the Golden State Warriors. Payton getting up there in age at 32. I can see Will Richard just taking his rotation spot moving forward, maybe even his spot on the roster for the rest of their time in Golden State. We'll see what happens in the offseason, but overall, like, Richard isn't like that guy. He's not a scorer, quote unquote. So I would not read too much into his actual shooting percentages because of the small sample and because he's not creating things on his own. Some other let's see, rating adjustments. So let me actually go through, and I'm going to talk through all his ratings and update them based on what I have in my roster. So I'm just going to round that out to an 80. We'll round this out. Try to do multiples of 5 with most of these ratings, because honestly, can anybody tell me what the difference between a 44 and a 45 post fadeaway is? Same thing here. So draw foul, they still have this at 40, but he's taken 5.1 free throw attempts per 36 minutes. He's getting to the line a lot, getting fouled on. Again, he's driving a lot. He's getting in that position, so he's I gave him plus 30 to his draw foul. The close shot, that's fine. I'm going to drop this by 5 points, 6 points. And then 3-point shot, I'm going to lower this just a tad because, again, I care more about shot creation and volume than 2K does. They're just looking at raw percentage, which is how you'll end up with like crazy stuff like Aaron Gordon having like a 92 3-point rating at any given in any given roster update. I'm just going to boost this up to a 70. Really, no shooting guard in the league should be lower than a 70. Pass IQ 65. We're just going to round these out. That's fine. Offensive rebound rate. He has an 8 percentage offensive rebound rate, which is really good for a like 2 guard, 3 or small forward. He split his time at both positions. So I'm going to boost that up to 52, essentially like 10 points higher than where it would have been in college. I'm just going to smooth out his dunk rating, plus 10 to the standing, minus 10 to the driving dunk. He's not like a crazy athlete or anything. Shot IQ 70, I'm actually going to boost this up to an 80. I would have had him at like 75, 80 coming out of college just because he was a very sound player, and that's obviously played into what he's done so far in his career. We're going to boost this up to a 52. Again, my scale is slightly different from 2K. Only 70 hands. Yeah, we're going to boost this up to an 80, which is basically average for an NBA player. We're going to boost up his defensive rebound rate, which doesn't reflect it in his NBA minutes yet, but I'm still going off of his college sample. Interior defense 50. I think we're going to do that. I have to get a little more tape on him to see whether or not this should be like a 55 or not. 50 to 55 is basically average for a 2 guard. He is a little undersized, like a Gary Payton II, but I think these are basically fine. And he was a 4-year player in college. Those guys are typically more polished on that end. 41 block, 80 steal. Again, this is more just based on his college production. His steal rate has been good in the NBA. So far, I believe it's like 3-ish%. We're just gonna round these out. Speed with ball, only 70 is kind of whack for a 2 guard. We're gonna just round this up, round this down. I'm gonna bring this to an 85. Hustle rating's fine, and then make that an 80. All of those are 80s. That's fine. 80 to 85 is like the average for an NBA player, especially a young player. Actually, yeah, you know what? He never got hurt in college, so let's actually just knock that up to an 85. Pass perception, they brought this from a 54 to a 79. Okay, yeah. Again, that is based on, they could have foreseen that coming based on his steal rate in college. And then they boosted his defensive consistency by 5 points, his offensive consistency by 25 points. Again, that's between that and the shot IQ, that's pretty much the bulk of what's made up his overall rating boost so far. But we can see they left him at a 57 help defense, even though, by all accounts, with his, getting into passing lanes for steals, and he's looked pretty good as a defensive player. He's in the rotation for the team. Let's knock this up to a 70. They didn't touch it at all, as per usual. They didn't touch his help defense, his interior defense, or his perimeter defense, as per usual. These guys. Most players never get these updated, very rarely, unless people are very vocal complaining about 2K's laziness in this department. Otherwise, it's kind of like the same shit over and over that they'll update in any given update. I'm going to boost this up to a 65. And I think 75 is probably fine based on his performance. I can see this going down a little once his sample rounds out. And then 80 intangibles is another huge update for them, plus 30, if you recall. I'm going to knock this down to a 70, which is just where I typically have role players. 80 is reserved for starters. So let's just back out, and I've got Richard up to a 76. He rates, I would have boosted him up to a 75, essentially. Let's see why 2K has him at 76. Well, he's got 5 badges on him. And the badges aren't necessarily the issue. It's the fact that they're silver grade, and some of them don't even particularly make a ton of sense. Bailout increases the chances of successfully completing a pass from midair. 2K has they changed a lot of bailout badges for players this year, and they must have some cockamamie metric that they're using for this to like measure like midair passes or some shit. 2K, it's fine if you want to get this data, but you typically have no idea where to put the breakpoints for like these for players for like in terms of like the ability level of like what a bronze, silver, gold, etc. should be, and then they have difficulty understanding what an appropriate sample size is. Will Richard has played 155 minutes. I don't care if he made like 5 midair passes in 9 games or whatever. That's still probably not going to hold over an 82-game season. So, and like looking at the tape of that Warriors game, I didn't see any like crazy passes from him. So they gave him silver bailout, also bronze break starter. That's another one where like I have no idea where they're pulling some of these from. So I'm going to remove those. Those don't really make a ton of sense for me. To me, the off-ball pest I'm cool with because he you know, the steal rate, and again, he was regarded as a good defensive player in college, so totally fine. You can even give him a silver with that. I'm gonna leave him at a silver, but then like the silver shooting badges is just insane. Again, if you watch the tape of this game, they're leaving him open. Like the Kings are not a good defensive team, number one, but number two, the scouting report is like he's not like a crazy like shooter off the catch or anything like that. Um, and his volume's okay. I think he's taking 5.8, no 6.3 threes per 36 minutes. That's below average for a two guard. Two guards are typically around like 7-ish in 3-point attempts. So, you know, it's not like he's like gunning out there or anything. So, and then slippery off ball. Right now, we have possession data based on like synergy possession data. Typically starts tracking once a player hits 10 possessions. Richard has 17 spot up possessions on the year, 3.9 per 36 minutes. So sure, I'm going to give him a bronze for set shot specialist, but like slippery off ball, he's not really coming off screens or handoffs or anything like that. So I was really confused by this one as well. I'm going to be removing that. So let's hop back into the badges. And notably, they didn't give him anything for finishing. I don't necessarily know if he needs anything right now, again, because he hasn't been creating these looks. I gotta check and see on his floater, but like layup mixmaster, this is for guys who are creating layups off the dribble. It doesn't really apply. Maybe paint prodigy is like the closest thing, because again, a lot of these are just like bunnies at the rim that he's getting up. He only has 1 and 1 on the year through 9 games, so I didn't feel the need. Like physical finisher, not really. So we're gonna knock this down to a bronze. We're gonna take this off. We're gonna knock set shot down to a bronze. Otherwise, yeah, nothing here. I'm gonna take these off, the ones I don't really understand at all. And then silver off ball. I am gonna give him interceptor based on his steal rate. I'm gonna wait for, you know, typically the steal rate he has would be. It would be higher than a bronze, but again, small sample. It wouldn't be the first time where a player started off hot with steals and then cooled off as the season went on. And then one more. Rebound chaser. He's got that crazy offensive rebound rate for a guard, so we are going to give him a bronze there. Was there anything I'm forgetting? I feel like I missed one. I'll back out and see what we got. So I've got 4 badges on him. I think that's fine. Yeah, that's essentially where I would have Will Richard. I don't have these random ass passing badges on him, and the only silver we have is the off-ball pest. I think he's going to be. I'm really interested to see what he does the rest of the year, because basically, based on what he's doing, this is like a kind of borderline all-rookie team type of season he's having. So we'll see. And obviously, there's a lot of. You know, he could definitely make a case for like more rotation minutes. Buddy Hield is not that great defensively anymore. He's like his minutes have been fluctuating a lot. You know, the absence of like Steph, guys like Jimmy, they're older players. Draymond, that's what's part of what's allowed Richard to get more rotation minutes than he otherwise would, because otherwise he'd just be like the 12th man on this team. But because of the ages of some of these guys, he does get a little extra run. D'Anthony Melton isn't even back yet, but like guys like Moody, Gary Payton II is probably the most likely to fall out of the rotation in favor of Richard. Yeah, just as the season goes on, I'm curious to see what happens with their depth chart. He is currently like the 5th guard on like their wings, but that could easily become. He could definitely move up to like 4th guard. And technically, Podziemski plays a lot of minutes in the 1, so it's like 3.5 guard for Will Richard. Yeah, but hopefully you guys liked this little dive that I had on Will Richard, one of the more interesting players in the early NBA season. This kind of doubles as like an analysis for how I felt about the official 2K roster update, as Richard was one of the biggest movers in that update. So thanks, guys, and I'm going to be doing a 2K rating recap later on tonight. We got 9 games to get through. I'll see you later.